Shall I start?
Kulsum and Moses will be presenting first.
Sir, am I audible?
Using two devices.
Yes.
Can you mute one of them?
Ah, yes, that's the problem.
Sir, is the screen clearly visible?
Yes, the
Kulsum,
screen
there
is
is noise from your side. Can you mute one of the devices which you are not using for speaking?
So, good morning, sir, and my dear friends. I'm here.
just a minute, Kulsum. Still there is echo.
Yes, sir. I don't know why is it. So, let me
Huh?
check it.
Please use only one device. Now it is better.
So, I think now it's clear.
Serious.
So, 1 minute, so 1 second, so 1 second.
अजरा ये दवाएं मैंने रख दी हैं और वो जो वो लाएगा उसमें एक उनकी वॉबिट्स है और एक प्रेजेंटा वो दोनों ये जो नाश्ते के बाद
Yes, sir. So, shall I begin now?
Yes, you can start, Kulsum.
So, good morning, sir, and my dear friends. I am here to present the article on how to become an authentic speaker. This article is published in HBR's Business Review, and it is one of the 10 most read on communication. It is by the famous author Nick Morgan. He begins the article with a case study of a Carol, a vice president of sales. She energetically strides to the podium and provides assessment of company sales outlook for the year, supplementing her speech with colorful slides showing strong growth and exciting new product in his pipeline. She also used the animated gestures to describe his presentation. She carefully rehearsed before in front of a small audience of trusted colleagues, and yet everyone likes his message, everyone likes his energy, the way she was delivering the message, everyone liked it. And she also confidently delivers the closer by walking to the edge of the stage, challenging her listeners to commit to a stretch sales, about many of them in the annual winners cycle. But what happens? What happens next is the Carol senses that something is missing. The audience isn't exhibiting the kind of enthusiasm needed, that has to be there. She begins to panic, like what is happening, what she can do to solve the situation. We also have faced the situation like Carol. Like when we are delivering the speech, we don't find the presenter so authentic. We say that no, everything is right, the presentation is right, the speech is right, the message is right, but yet something is wrong. And if we are asked what is wrong, we cannot say what the thing is. So how a brain perceives this kind of communication where everything is right, yet the presentation doesn't feel that much compelling. We just say that it is like computed, it is phoned in, or it is not real. So let us see how science perceive this kind of communication, what science teaches us. Number one, spoken message and our language should be in coordination. Like the message that we are delivering and the message and the gestures we are using should be in the coordination. Like if we are saying yes, we should have nod our head. If we are saying yes and doing like this, so it will give a wrong impression to our audience. Then the seconds are word after the fact explanation of what we gestured as we did. Words define our gestures. Our gestures do not define our words. Like if our words and our gestures are not in the coordination and if our words precedes our gesture, so then it will give a wrong impression to the audience and they don't find us so real. They just say that we have learned everything and we are just delivering the speech. And now the third thing is typical conversation, reinforcement, contradiction, and commentary arise first in gesture. Like what we have to say is first arising in our gesture. If what we are saying first arise in our gesture, and the gesture is very much powerfully have impact on the audience. And if we have to know, the other thing is gestures speak louder than the words. And human being, the second non-verbal communication actually start first. In the instant after an emotion of an impulse fires down the brain, but before it has been articulated, indeed, which show that people's natural and unstudied gestures indicated or what they think and say. Next, so if we have to make an impact on the audience, we have to give more emphasis on gestures. And if we have to make our words loud and our gestures much more louder so that the audience very powerfully they have an impact of our speech. We have seen many of the presenters they say like we don't like to be over rehearsed. We don't seem to the audience as we have over rehearsed, we have learned many of the things, we just go on the stage and bring them. But as they arrive on the stage, they begins to panic because they haven't done the preparation very well and their body language shows this. So how if now the preparation is important thing. We can say the traditional approach like careful rehearsal like Carol's did with his in front of a small audience, and the careful rehearsal usually involves a specific coaching and non-verbal like to maintain eye contact, spread arms, walking down the podium, but that makes the speaker seems to be artificial. So what can we do to look much real? Now, if we cannot do the casual spontaneity, not traditional rehearsal leads to communication and prepare for an important presentation. So now how can we rehearse so that we look much real, not phoned in or not artificial? So we have four steps from which we can rehearse our speech with these aim in mind to be open to our audience, to connect with the audience, to be passionate about our topic, and to listen to our audience. Now, I would request Moses Abbas to further explain these topics. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Kulsum, please change the slide. So, try practicing your presentation in 4 ways: adopting the mindset of each aim in turn, feeling it more than thinking about it, forget about rehearsing specific gestures, and emerging naturally and at the right moment. Next slide. What underlies an authentic speech? How to speak with confidence in public. Morgan has recommended rehearsing speeches with these 4 aims in mind: being open to your audience, connecting with your audience, being passionate about your topic, and listening to your audience. This 4-step process will help us create a true emotional connection with our audience. Next slide. The intent to be open with audience. To rehearse being open, practice your speech by envisioning what it would be like to give presentation to someone we are completely comfortable with. How does it feel to present your presentation or speech to someone you are close with? This person could be your mentor, your close friend, your family, anyone. Don't over intellectualize. Try to be credible, try to be fact based, but don't over intellectualize. In case of Carol, she works on being or on feeling more open in her presentation. Her face begins to light up with a big smile when she speaks and her shoulders relax. Next slide. The intent to connect with audience. Think about wanting reading to engage listeners. Do what feels natural and appropriate. Do share a character or a story. Describe a personal experience, but try to engage with the audience. You can increase the intensity or volume of voice or move closer to listener. During actual speech, these behaviors will happen naturally and with the right timing. Carol's intent was to being connected with her listeners. She realizes that she typically waits too long, in fact, until the very end of her speech to make contact with them. Next slide. The intent to be passionate about the topic. If openness is the ante that lets us into the game, connection is what keeps the audience playing. Being passionate about your topic will give the desired creativity in your presentation. Focus not on what to say, but on why you are here to give the presentation and how you feel about it. Let the underlying hidden emotion come out in every single word delivered during rehearsal. Carol begins to think about what she's passionate about, her determination to beat a close competitor. She realizes that this passion fuels her energy and gives her excitement and zeal about her job. Next slide. the intent to listen to audience. The intent to discover the audience emotional state will be the most important thing during the actual presentation. You may solicit feedback from the audience by asking them a simple question. Listeners won't actually be talking to you, but they will be sending you a non-verbal message that you will need to pick up and respond. Consider Carol once again. Because of her intent to pick up on her listeners' emotion, she has been wrongly assuming that her salespeople share the same sense of urgency about their major competitor. Next slide. Conclusion. I want to conclude this presentation in some different way. I want to quote Hazrat Ali here. Half of the beauty comes from the way you speak. An authentic speaker invites the respect of the audience without seeming to expect it. Speakers' own desire to be open, connected, and passionate strengthens their growing ability to come across as and be an authentic speaker. Thank you.
Uh, am I audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Actually, sir is not audible to me.
So, say your mic
Sir
is
is mute.
Yes, Nazim, are you there?
Oh,
I am asking about Nazim who presented yesterday. He's there. So Nazim,
Yes, sir.
may I request you to just be slightly more, attentive and take a stock of what are your observations on these two presentations which we are going to have. The first one is already over. So if you have jotted down the key points, you can just record them with you. So you are kind of reporter for these two presentations. We would like to listen to you after they are through with the presentation. Okay, Nazim?
Okay.
Nazim, are you clear about the job?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Kamran, you may start now.
thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So I'm here to present. I with my partner Siddhant Shekhar here to present on the topic how to pitch a brilliant idea. So first of all, what is pitching? Pitching basically means presenting and persuading someone to buy something. It's actually a part of selling. So before I start, I would like to show you something. I would like to show you the power of pitching. So as you can see, he's an Italian artist who has sell off a piece of air for $18,300. It's strange. Actually, he didn't sell a piece of air. He actually sold off his idea about that piece of air. So this is the and to sell off that piece of his idea, he had to pitch that idea into the mind of the buyer. So this is the power of pitching. Okay, before moving further, I would like to narrate a story, not briefly though. Actually, some time back, I also pitched an idea successfully. It was about teaching some unconventional, though useful things to school students. So it was a friend from Turkey, say Sarah, who, after getting convinced from my idea, asked me to pitch that idea to her grandfather, who owns some boarding schools in Turkey. So she arranged a meeting after 5 days, and I started preparing. So the person to whom I was about to pitch was the owner of the largest engineering consultancy of Adana province in Turkey. So I started preparing well. For the next 3 days straight, for 15 hours daily, I watched a Turkish TV series named Chalishu. I took out notes pertaining to some scenes regarding my idea. And at the fifth day, I entered the meeting, and when I left, I got the deal. So what did I do in those 3 days by watching a TV series? So let the suspense be there. I will unveil it later. Okay, this is my topic: how to pitch a brilliant idea, moving people into action. Now, it is an article published by HBR. It is a classic article published by HBR, authored by Kimberly D. Elsbeck. So now you will say, so what? What's in it for me? Why should we care? Actually, I must say you should care, because when you don't have a reputation, especially because we all are freshers, as we know, and we don't have resumes full of experiences, and we don't have a reputation bringing on creative ideas, right? So you have to show you are worthy of getting the deal. So these are the two basic terms which will be used the most in the article: the pitcher and the catcher. Pitcher is basically the seller of idea, and catcher is the buyer of idea. Pitchers may be entrepreneurs, sales executives, marketing managers, and catchers are the investor, venture capitalist, and the decision makers. Okay, so what we're gonna discuss in this article is how catchers think. We will decipher their mind, art of pitching, the 7 prototypes when you play as a catcher, actually when you will play the role of the catcher, and finally call to action or conclusion. Okay, so how does the pitching process works? Actually, you have got a brilliant idea, and you got to pitch the idea in the catcher's mind. So you go there, you open the door, you enter the room. The first thing you will get, what is that? You will be stereotyped. They will categorize into neat and clean categories. They will put you into neat and clean categories, and you will be treated accordingly. So now you may ask, so what? I have a brilliant idea. I don't care. I can succeed on my merits. So that doesn't happen. It doesn't matter how good your idea is. What matters is what the catcher think of you as a person in the first few seconds of the encounter. So the main thing is, how do you portray yourself in the first few seconds of the encounter? Oh, sorry. Yeah, we get stereotyped, right? Categorized, labeled. Okay, so they judge you and put you into categories. But how fast they judge you. A human can categorize others in less than 150 milliseconds, and the lasting judgment is made in the first 30 minutes of the encounter. So even if you have been categorized in the first 150 milliseconds, you have 30 minutes to make the mark, and here is your chance to pitch successfully. Now, how does the catcher think? Catcher doesn't think objectively. They don't assess you objectively on the merits of your idea. They first assess you, and then they think of your idea. Then they assess your idea. Okay. So how does the catcher think? They have a model of creative. Not only the catchers, we all people have a model of a creative person in our mind, a subconscious model actually. That's so not correct. So according to us, a catcher is like an unconventional personality. Like we think the only people who are creative are the people having noodle-like hairs on their head, or the people who are intuitive, like some sage in Himalayas, and they are sensitive, narcissists. And I think all other points are very well self-explanatory. They are passionate, youthful, right? Okay, I want you to read this for a moment, please. So the key takeaways we get from here is there are two types of stereotypes: the positive ones and the negative ones. The technique uses elimination technique. So if what you have to do, just fall into one of 4 negative stereotypes and you are gone. Actually, you are done with the deal. You are not gonna get the deal. So the conclusion is you must fall into one of 3 positive stereotypes, right? So only 1% of ideas make it beyond the initial pitch. Okay. So what does it take for somebody with a brilliant idea to get it noticed, right? Okay. So pause here and think. You are sitting in front of a catcher. You must think, what is one thing I can do that can make this catcher do what I want him to do, right? So You must remember that to catch the fish, we must hook the bait with the which suit the fish, right? Whereas Dale Carnegie said, arouse in the other person an eager want. If you have a if you have a brilliant idea, rather than making the other person think the idea is yours, let him stir and make the idea. Let him stir and cook the idea by himself, right? Actually, self-expression is a tendency of human nature. And the same thing Kimberly Elsbeck said in this article, that if you want to pitch successfully, you must collaborate. You must treat your catcher as a collaborative creator of the idea. So if the catcher thinks that he is a creative collaborator in the process of developing the idea, he will respond well, and you can get that deal done. So when I watched the series Charlie Kushu, I will return back to my story. When I watched the series Charlie Kushu, actually Sarah told me that her grandfather loves this series. So I find this as a common point of discussion between him and me, and I discussed this during the whole process. And through the discussion, I steered him towards my idea rather than telling him my idea straight away. So that's how I got the deal done. Now there are 7 prototypes that Siddhant will be telling you. So Siddhant, please carry on with the rest.
Sir, am I audible?
Siddhant,
Yes, yes, Siddhant.
Change the slide camera.
oh yes.
Good morning, sir. I am Siddhant Shekhar. As Kamran discussed about catcher and pitcher, now we move on the prototypes. There are 4 positive prototypes that are discussed by Professor Kimberly Elsbach in the article. We comes to know 3 prototypes, positive prototypes, of which first of the prototype is showrunner. Tactical intelligence. They are able to adapt and improvise based on the personality of the catchers. They carry themselves in a manner that positively increase their confidence, and they are innovative. He is able to pitch the idea in a very creative manner. For example, legendary kitchen gadget inventor Ron Popeil, he enthusiastically showcases his product as an innovation that will change your life. Usually, showrunners are able to take idea from anywhere and present them in a in an advantageous manner that gives them a positive prototype. Second one is second one is change the slide now.
Okay.
Second one is neophyte. They are they are opposite of showrunners. They are avid learners. They are daring. They are not the kind of people who are prepared with knowledge regarding what they are presenting in front of catchers. Example: many entrepreneurs are neophytes at the time of startup. And the third one is Kamran. And the third one is artist. Artists are different from showrunners in their presentation and personality. Compared to showrunners, compared to showrunners, they tend to be shy and socially awkward. As one Hollywood producer told that the more shy a writer is, the more shy a writer is, the better you think the writing is, because they are living in their internal world. They are less concerned the way how they dressed while presenting the catchers as well. Also, they particularly adept at conducting thought experiments, which invites the audience in, into imaginary world. While they constitute 40% of all the successful pitchers, they are not as polished as showrunners. Also, they are genuine. While it's harder to fake to be an artist who is not an artist, because genuineness is what makes them credible. But and they are the most creative of all the three positive prototypes because they prefer creativity over reality. Now the question arises is which of the three is most likely to succeed? Overwhelmingly, catchers tend to look for showrunners, although artists and neophytes can still win the day through their charm. Project yourself. We have to project ourselves as at least one of the three creative types and get the catcher to collaborate in the idea development to improve the chances of our success. But comment in the slide. Change the slide comment.
Yeah, okay. Hello, Siddhant.
But there are some negative prototypes also which we have to keep in our mind while pitching our idea. Whenever we sell our idea to catchers, we need to keep these four negative thoughts in our mind. So the first negative stereotype is the robot. We should not present ourselves as robot. That is too formulaic or too formula based. While pitching the idea, we act like human. We should be open enough to get the queries and give their answers at the accordingly at the same time. And the also we should not project ourselves as car salesman. Try not to be argumentative character. We should be ready for a good, healthy discussion with investors. And the next one is charity. Try not to. We should try not to show ourselves as needy. Show some passion about our idea, which we try to sell them. And the final is pushover. It simply means one should have enough confidence in his or her idea to defend it while pitching the idea. One should not be easily pushed over by someone else's suggestion. We will understand this with an example. For example, a pitcher or an entrepreneur, for example, a pitcher or an entrepreneur who seeks funding for his idea, when they raise concern about an aspect of the idea, the pitcher simply offered to remove it from the design, leading the investors or the catchers think that the pitcher didn't really care about his idea. So the basic idea is he should have enough confidence to defend his or her idea, and at the same time, one should be flexible enough to get the suggestion and make the correction if necessary in the idea. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to hand over the presentation to friend Kamran for conclusion.
Okay, thank you, Siddhant. So there is a point remaining. I said when you play a catcher, how should you behave? So I will wind it up fast. So as a catcher, when you rely too much on stereotyping, then you tend to overlook the real creative people. And as Coca-Cola CEO said, there is nothing so dangerous as a good pitcher, as a good pitcher than with a real talent. So, the implicit models we have in our mind, the subconscious traits, they are actually not accurate enough. So, cognitive flexibility and also the problem solving is a part of creativity. It doesn't mean that creative people can't be down to earth. So, basically, we must assess as a catcher. We must assess the pitchers as accurately as possible. Like situational and behavioral or background questions may be asked to showrunners, and the neophytes and the artists can be asked to produce the finished goods. One thing maybe there must be more than one catcher may be present. And the third one is, as Daniel Kahneman says, suspend the judgment to make a better judgment. Okay, so finally coming to the summary of the presentation, I would like to say the three most important points. First is, you must remember these points. First is, you will get a stereotype. You will get a stereotype really fast. It doesn't matter how good your idea is. What matters is what the catcher thinks of you as a person in the first few seconds of the encounter. So you must, if you want to put successfully, you have to treat catcher as a creative collaborator in your idea. And to do that, you have to fall under the three categories, namely the showrunner, the artist, and the neophyte. Thank you so much.
There's
Okay.
some problem at some level, eh? Why?
Am I not audible, sir?
No, you were audible,
Yes, sir.
but there was some background noise.
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir. No noise. Okay. Shall I repeat what I said?
Yes, the summary part especially. I missed
Okay,
that.
sir. Okay. So there are 3 points you must remember exactly. First is you will get stereotyped. In the first few seconds of the encounter, they will put you into categories. So it doesn't matter how good your idea is. What matter is what he thinks of you as a person in the first few seconds of the encounter. So you have, if you want to pitch successfully, you have to treat the catcher as a creative collaborator in your idea. And to do that, you have to fall in one of the three positive stereotypes, that is showrunner, the neophyte, and the artist. This was the summary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kamran. So we have listened to these four speakers today, and just a brief overview. We have actually designed the coverage in this manner. That in the first round we are taking up articles which are primarily communication focused, and then we will move on to the second theme, that is gaining self-awareness, because that is the start. The interpersonal communication is the starting point of good interpersonal communication. Okay. So in this round, we are perusing ideas which primarily focus on communication effectiveness. So yesterday also, when we talked about barriers and gateways, and then who gets hurt, and today when we talk about how to be an authentic speaker or how to pitch a brilliant idea. So our focus was on getting a feel of what are communication challenges. So before I request anyone else, can I request Nazim to share his observations on the four speakers, and then just use it as a kind of input point, and afterwards the class will be open for discussion and we can have feedback from other friends who are present in the class. So Nazim, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, all four of them are seems very confident.
Nazim, can you open your video, please? Yes.
Sir, all four of them seems very confident. And in case of Kulsum and Moses, they use more text in their PPT, and they have a very good command over language. And Kamran and Siddhant used very few text and explain it very well. Kamran has good command over language, and he relate the points with his personal experience and personal life. And I think Siddhant should work on his rate of speech. I think he speaks very slow. That feels sleepy sometimes.
Mhm.
That was my point, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else would like to comment on this? Is Superior present? Superior, who made presentation yesterday, is she present?
Yes, sir.
So Superior, what is your take on these four presentations?
So everyone is good in presentation, and as Nazim said that first presentation is too heavy in text, so they should change after yesterday. It has been discussed in the class,
Yes.
and Kamran was very good in presenting, but his flow was breaking sometimes when
Okay.
he was changing slides.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And Kulsum and Mojis did very well.
Okay. That's good, Supriya. In fact, Supriya, I have a task for you. You know, you were given certain feedbacks yesterday, for example, like you could be more cheerful, something like that, isn't it? So, likewise, in the context of each presentation, we are sharing some feedback in the class. I'm sharing some feedback, and your friends are also giving their inputs. So, maybe for this week, if you can, especially for yesterday's session, if you can jot down the key inputs that were offered by the class to the speakers.
Okay, sir.
So you may have to coordinate with Aman, your batchmate, your team member, and then Nazim also, and just bullet points, no explanations. These were
Okay,
the
sir.
feedbacks given, and give it to Kamran. And Kamran, your job is to compile for this week. Okay, so you will compile the key ideas that we are discussing today, as also tomorrow. So the week, the takeaway of this week, then will be part of every one of us. Otherwise, generally, what happens is that so many ideas are discussed in the class, but later on, the retention is not much. So let us have the key bullet points so that we retain better the key inputs that we are receiving. Okay. So now I come to the speakers themselves, especially Kulsum, for example, and Mojez. How do you feel after the presentation? And if you were to evaluate your own presentation, what do you think you did well? Because you can comment most authentically because you know how prepared you were, what was your extent of preparation, how much time did you devote, and then in the context of that, when you actually came over here, how much of that preparation was actually put to good use during the presentation. So I would like to listen to you also first before I comment on your performance. So Kulsum, how do you feel about the presentation?
So actually, we have rehearsed it before that how we will present and how we will change the slides. So how we both should be in the coordination. We don't feel like we are not in the coordination. Like slide is not changing and we are just presenting our view. So we have rehearsed it before, and as we are presenting, so as we have rehearsed, we are much more confident here. Like
Mm.
before, when we are not prepared, we feel less confident, but as we have prepared, we are much more confident here. And the experience was very good, and after we will do all the things to improve ourselves.
So
We will
what do
discuss.
you think? What do you think could be your own personal agenda for growth? What else you need to do to make an even more impactful presentation?
So to work on the speech and work on as we have to work on the gestures, how we can more connect, listen to the audience as we are not here seeing the audiences and listening to the audience. So we are not getting the responses from the audience. So that we have to work as the college will open, as we will give the presentation in real. So that we have to check. We have to do.
So do you agree with this observation which was made by one of your friend Nazim that there was slightly more content on the
Yes,
slides?
sir. So as it was our first presentation, so we will work on it.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
just have a relook at the slides and see whether this observation holds true. Ideally, like for example, especially in case of Mojis, I felt yours slides were okay. Maybe some shortening of content or making it more crisp. But Mojis, you were having almost full text, which it appeared as if you are reading it out. This is not required because generally what happens is if there is so much of content on the slide, it becomes a distraction because audience instead of listening to you, they start reading what is written on the slide, and in the process they lose their attention on what you are saying, which actually is the core thing at when you are making a presentation. PPT is only a support. So So just become more conscious of it on this account. Mojis, what is your take? Can we listen to your, how do you feel after the presentation? And what is your agenda for improvement?
Moses, mic open.
I'm sorry. Am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Sir, I think the presentation was good, but the fact that the presentation is quite heavy in text is right. We wanted to connect every point and every slide with the case study of Carol. So that's the reason why the presentation is heavy in text, but we will work on that in future for sure.
Carol is only a symbol. There is no need to get too heavily into. Yesterday we discussed this point. Indigenize the example, or discuss ideas which are closer to your context. You remain focused to the core idea. Naturally, you cannot deviate from the core idea. But Carol could as well be Kulsum, isn't it?
Yes.
Why not? So indigenize the example, and it was good that, for example, you quoted Hazrat Ali, his ideas on who is an effective communicator. So if you can get some insights from some other context on an idea which you are presenting, do that. You did the right thing, isn't it? So yes, master the content which is there in the article, and later on, if you want to supplement, you have an option to supplement. In fact, that will indicate that you are not too glued to the article. You are focused on the idea of the article.
Okay.
But too much of emphasis on Carol indicates that you are too glued to the article, not to the idea. Idea is more important than the article. Because once you get the idea, you connect better with the audience. Okay, what about Kamran? What is your feedback on your own performance? How do you
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, I lacked on practice, so I could refine. If I could have refined my script a little more, so I could be clear, concise, and crisp. As Supriya rightly said, due to lack of practice, I lacked on flow also. My flow was disrupting. So actually, that's I couldn't practice much. So that is the reason I can deliver better.
What could be the reason for a slight lack of coordination between you and Siddhant?
Yes, yes, a lack of time. I said lack of practice due to time constraints. We were busy in some work, so we could not practice together. We just practiced 2 times only. There was lack of coordination issue.
Especially in synchronizing the content, the PPT slides and
Yes, sir.
the verbal delivery, and especially when one person is handling the PPT, then how smoothly that transition occurs, that's very important, because if each time the speaker has to tell when to move the slide, this creates a kind of disturbance in the presentation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
So
do.
better coordination on this account. But I think I have a few things which are slightly, I don't, I again request not to take it too personally. I
Yes, sir.
I noted one thing, that you have a tendency to use a pet phrase right, and perhaps
Yes, sir.
uh, you use that right a bit wrongly. Isn't it? What happens in that case is that right, when you say it, have you got it right? So,
Yes, sir.
so what happens? It sounds a bit patronizing, isn't it? As if समझ में कहीं समझ में आया कि नहीं आया?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So right doesn't sound.
Yes, sir. I'm improving on it, sir. Actually.
So be more conscious of these pet phrases which somehow creep in into our communication. And to us, it may appear very natural, but it may be a bit distracting to the listener. Isn't it? So then
Yes, sir. Yes. Got it.
again, the choice of proverbs. For example, you can, once we have got the idea, so we say, okay, or for example, whether we should care about it or not. If I say you should care about it versus I say we should care about it, does it make a
Yes, sir. I
difference?
agree on this.
Huh?
Yeah, I agree on this, sir. Yes, sir.
So when we say you, again, that sounds a bit patronizing. Generally, teachers get in this mold. They are there to advise others. So they generally exclude themselves from the advice. But this is valid to us that we should care about how to make a killer presentation. It applies to you as much as it applies to me. So why I should say you, Kamran, should care about it? We both should care about it. Okay. So that's one thing. And yes, somebody very rightly pointed out about the fluency of delivery, which you have very rightly and very honestly accepted that maybe uh, slightly more, with, if you were slightly more prepared. In fact, I have been repeating this point. 90% of our effectiveness is already decided when we come for presentation. And that is the preparation part that we have already put in. And preparation again has two stages. One, internalizing the idea, and second, then presenting it in a lucid manner, smooth manner, fluent manner. Okay. What about you, Siddhant? What is your take?
Thank you, sir.
Siddhant, what do you say? What
Sir,
is your own feedback?
sir, there is lack of confidence in my presentation, and as my classmate point Nazim that the sound is slow. This is also the issue.
What is silo?
Sound volume.
No, I think that was okay. We could listen to you. लेकिन जो अभी एक बात आई थी ना, जिससे आप भी उस पर बात कर रहे थे, पैशनेट, दैट पैशन वाज मिसिंग.
Yes.
Or maybe it was because you are not used to presenting the ideas. Gradually, as we get used to ideas, presenting the before the class, and we develop passion for ideas. Then our heart and mind both work in coordination. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so maybe some focus on the language also.
Yes.
Maybe you are not using language as confidently as it should be. So some have feedback from your friends, especially Kamran. Kamran has good diction, so you can discuss with him. For example, I personally noted that you are not able to pronounce S properly. Is, for example, you tend to say. This is the problem. So S is not coming out very clearly in your diction. So just become more conscious of this, and it will be a good idea to have feedback from your friends, and you can yourself reflect on this. And as was saying, one of the reasons why there was a lack of smoothness in the delivery, it was because you were in a very tough situation whereby each time somehow you were required to tell the partner that now it is the time for changing the slides. So that was breaking the flow. Okay. So maybe that is something which needs better preparation, I would say. And overall, when we have passion in our delivery, That brings force in our delivery. Otherwise, the ideas can be presented in a not so energetic manner, because we ourselves are not very energetic or very passionate about the idea. So passion is the starting point. To me, that is the core. कहते हैं ना, बात जो दिल से निकलती है असर रखती है, पर नहीं ताकत परवाज मगर रखती है. तो कौन सी बात जो है वो पर लगा के उड़ जाती है, वो होती है जिसको आप वाकई महसूस कर सकते हैं. To develop full command over the idea, and then when you present it, it will fly, and it will go places. So that is my wish to all of you, that when you make a presentation, others really listen to that. So thank you very much. Now, if so there is some observation from the class or some friends who wants to say something generally about the key gains.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.